So yeah, there are some points to note in terms of that January 24 monitoring statement. You'll see
sorry, Chair, are we skipping the period to March 2023? Page 9.
Sorry, I'll bring that up. I was dealing with it in sections. Sorry, Paul. We're dealing with the section which was the accounts from 2022-23. If that includes page 9, then is there any points you wish to raise on? The first item is Appendix 1A and 1B.
Yeah. Okay. You're now talking about year. I thought you skipped on to 2A's. You talk about current situation.
Yes, we're going to talk about 2A, 2B, which
right,
is section 2. We will return as Laura's got the information that you requested, so we'll come back and we'll do that. So,
okay, that's fine.
So
we're 2A now.
Yes.
Right.
So, which is the monitoring statement for 23-24. So, Lewis.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So, yeah, there are some points to note in terms of that January 24 monitoring statement. You'll see at section 5.3 of the report that the outturn figure has been increased by 10.3k to reflect additional charges by the Common Good Fund officer that we mentioned earlier on. And that just reflects the additional work that's been carried out by that officer in respect of the statutory consultations and leases, particularly around the Grant Street Yard. There's also additional expenditure this year in terms of the maintenance of the splash pad. Our expenditure in terms of property costs is expected to be 9.4 thousand higher than budget. And as I've mentioned before to you members, this is really in relation to the increased maintenance activity that's been required at the splash pad as it's starting to get slightly older. You'll see at section 5.4, there's a line describing how the project expenditure has been used in this year to date. And we have used 18,943 at this point. And that's been, again, in respect to some of that specialist cleaning at the splash pad, but mostly in relation to the demolition and removal of the former Link store. And also in respect of the replacement of some play park equipment at the Links. So what we tend to use that project expenditure line for is one-off costs or small project works, which would not normally fit into general property maintenance, like I say. So the things like the removal of that Link store, which is a project activity, or almost capital works in relation to the replacement of some play park equipment.
Okay. In essence, that Links development heading is effectively a contingency, which is used without. It's to use it. It's expedient to use that. We're all made aware of what the costs will be, and we'll agree them. But it's rather than waiting for quarterly committees, it gives the flexibility for officers in consultation with ourselves to carry out certain small tasks, of which there seems to be quite a few coming through. So effectively, if you can consider it as a contingency, we can look at that in the budget going forward, whether we're comfortable and relaxed with that or reduce it or whatever you wish to do. But that's my understanding and knowledge. That's what it's used for. So we can open that up. Thank you for that, Lewis. Right. Who wants to make comments? Paul, do you want to go?
Yeah, I have a peripheral question. When I posted details of this out yesterday, I had the allotments committee come back to me and said they've heard absolutely nothing about the Sundown feasibility study. They're just concerned they haven't been contacted. I'm guessing that's just because of how far it's got, but I just thought I'd better check up on that.
Okay, thank you. Lewis, do you want to comment on that? You're involved in that.
Thanks, Chair. Yep, definitely. I'm the project lead for that project, although I'm handing it over to a colleague as our area has changed. But in terms of where we are with that project, we've developed the brief for consultation in terms of a community food growing project on the smallest of the 3 fields at Sandown. That brief has gone out to the market through an open procurement exercise, and we have appointed Enscape has been appointed as the consultant that's going to take that piece of work forward. And where we are just now, we're at the stage where we're having sort of pre-commencement discussions with Enscape, and they will be carrying out full community and partner consultation as part of the work that they do. So they will be reaching out to the Allotment Society as part of that. and I'll be bringing updates, or colleagues will be bringing updates to you members in terms of that work as it progresses.
Okay, thank you, Lewis. I can just comment on Enscape. They were provided the feasibility study for the repair reuse facility at Park Quarry potentially. So they were very good, I have to say. So I'll open that up. Laurie?
No, I've no questions on it. That's fine.
Barbara? Sound? Barbara,
Yes,
you're not?
sorry.
No.
Right, yes, I would like to keep the contingency plan in for the links on the splash pad. I know it's a lot of money, but barriers around things and taped up things looks a whole lot worse and really bad look for the area. And glad to see going forward with the donate, the invitation to pay somehow to cover these costs going forward, because they're just going to accelerate. And I think in view of these costs that are only going to go up if something breaks, which it will eventually, that we really need the CCTV sorted down there and upgraded, just so stuff's been watched and it's known that everything's got an eye on it. It's an expensive kit and we need to take care, and we want phase 2 taken care of too.
Okay, thank you, Babs. Just to give you an update that I've made contact with the main shed and they've been put in touch with Ali, and they'll hopefully be having a meeting down at the splash pad to look at the ship, and hopefully we can turn that around and get her seaworthy again. So on that note, we can actually agree this recommendation. So I'll just bring this up on my paper and we'll say point 2, bear with me guys. So, consider and discuss the position of the Nairn Common Good Fund and 2023-24 outturn as shown in the January monitoring statement against budget presented at Appendix 2A and 2B. So we've considered and discussed, so we're happy with that. Now we'll move on to the third thing. This is agree the common good budget going forward. And again, Lewis, you want to give us a very brief breakdown on that, and then we'll open up for debate and questions.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, so the proposed budget for 24-25 is set out, members, for consideration. There are some points to note in there. We're proposing an increased property costs budget of £75,000 this year, for next year rather. And again, that's partially reflecting the increased costs in terms of the splash pad. You'll see at section 6.4.2 in the report that discussions are ongoing with different partners and community groups to find more affordable but equally effective ways to maintain and clean the splash pad and the wider splash pad area around it. And we think we've identified a more affordable method of cleaning it in-house rather than using the external contractor that we used last year. And we're also looking at an enhanced role for community partners in some of the wider maintenance around the splash pad area, particularly in relation to the lock block part to it. Yeah, so those are the main items there. There's also, which you'll probably come on to, Chair, the budget is affected by that proposed revised pitch lettings charging framework that I'm sure you'll come to next.
Yes.
Happy to take questions on that.
Okay. I would just reiterate, I think, comments that Councillor Oldham's made in the past about the sustainability of certain projects. I think we're getting a good example whereby there was a tremendous community effort with the capital, but then it's the ongoing legacy costs over the next 10, 20, 30 years, which the common good will bear and happy to bear, but have to be manageable. So it's a serious concern in any discussions about future projects. So I'll open this up on item 3. Is any points or any clarification required? No,
nothing.
Okay, Councillor Jarvie.
Who's
Paul's. Okay.
She's gone.
Paul.
Can I just ask a question about the Harbour Street toilets? Can you remind me, are we considering whether or not we're going to have to use any common good money for that? And if so, why isn't it in the budget?
Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. Yep, Councillor Oldham, it's deliberately not in the budget because we're not yet clear what the amount will be required from the common good to go into that project budget. We've got our proposed design and costings in respect of the redevelopment of the Harbour Street site, and there'll be a paper coming to Area Committee in May, which will present the CRF Regeneration Fund application for that project. I'm also in discussions with our property colleagues about contribution to the project budget in lieu of dilapidations at the site. Those discussions are ongoing. So once we get to the stage where we've finalised those discussions with property colleagues and we've got the outcome from the CRA funding application, we'll be able to set out in a future paper to Nairnshire Area Committee what the financial ask will be of the Common Good Fund. However, I will maybe mention as well that at the previous committee, when we had the capital receipt from the Grant Street Yard, members agreed to ring fence that capital receipt for the Harbour Street site. So we've already got that money set aside. But like I say, the next paper that will come to committee about Harbour Street will draw all the different funding streams together and set out proposals for your consideration.
Okay, thank you, Lewis. I'll just make an observation before I'll come back to Paul and then go on to Barbara. I think Lewis has done a remarkable job. He's been very astute, and he's drawn on a lot of funds which are coming to the common good, and the common good will get the benefit from a variety of funds. So I think I'll just put on record a thanks and appreciation, Lewis, not quite for a job well done because we're not completed, and I'm sure you'll be involved in getting it over the line. But it's working very well, and I think that we'll benefit from this, and the common good will certainly benefit from it. And while I can't comment on what's required, I don't imagine it's going to be an awful lot of money that's going to be required from the common good, but that's for a conversation further down the road. So I'll come to hand up, Barbara.
Right, oh, that's Lou's covered. Thank you for that. Who's going to be leading on the development plan for the links? I see there's 25,000 earmarked for that. Who's going to be taking that forward?
I think actually it's maybe I miss Nomer there to have it under development plan. As I said earlier, it's more a contingency for small projects or things that may occur up. Lewis, if you want to comment on that again to clarify, Councillor Barbie.
Yeah, no, you're right, Chair, that project costs budget is, I suppose, a contingency is a good way to look at it, and it just allows officers flexibility and additional ways to respond to pressures as they arise in the links and wider common good lands. In terms of a development plan for the links, that is a piece of work will be carried out by our Common Good Fund project officer and other colleagues to develop a strategy for the common good, which will include the links, and that's something that we'll be picking up later on in this year and bringing back to committee for consideration.
Thank you. Were we any further forward with restoring the Coronation Games that the board was needing repairs and things to it? The chessboard.
I think there's a schedule of work that needs doing down at the links. There's one or two things which I'm sure is in the pipeline. Maybe Lewis can clarify that.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Yeah, I think I know what you mean now, Councillor Jarvie. That chessboard set down near James's Cafe, I think it does need some works carried out to it, as we discussed at a site meeting not that long ago. I think where we are with that is we're looking at options to find a way to affordably improve it. I think there's some challenges around it just with the age of it, but I think we can maybe draw in some support from the community payback team, other council project teams that can help us to improve on things like that. And because it's a fairly small, well-defined piece of work. So yeah, I can come back with more detail on that once we know exactly how we're going to improve it.
Okay, thank you, Lewis. Provis.
Thank you. Just a quick one. Did we ever get dilapidations for the toilet down at the harbour? I remember there was an issue about dilapidations.
I think actually Lewis touched on that would be possibly could play into the new project from the schedule of dilapidations that was never carried out. But that's a conversation that's going on. But I'll let Lewis answer that directly.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, you're quite right. That is an ongoing discussion that I'm having with property colleagues. Yeah, I'm confident that we'll have something from them in lieu of dilapidations that will come into that capital project budget for the Harbour Street redevelopment. So I'll come back to you in due course with what that looks like. But like I say, when we come to the May committee, we should be more informed of what that's going to look like. And yeah, it will be part of the sort of funding package for Harbour Street that we present.
Okay, that's fine. We'll look forward to getting that. The observation I would make, and it's well, the world is moving towards net zero. We at the Nairn Common Good are effectively wanting to be cost neutral, and I should point out that the very good work that Ali is doing as our Common Good officer, and as start of the plan start to roll out and the actions that we're taking, they will move towards being cost neutral for Ali's salary, which was always the intention. The options were there with the Common Good management to enhance things and to make things more profitable, to cut costs, and that road is we're going down that road. And I'd say well done to Lewis and to Ali for that. So unless there's any other comments, we'll move to I'll say the recommendation as I. Bear with me. So, can we agree the Nairn Common Good Fund budget for 24-25 as detailed at Appendix 3? Agreed? Agreed. Okay, thank you. Now, Lara, could we return to 2022-23? Have you the information for us there?
Yep,
okay,
no problem. So, on the other costs, part of the reason it looks so high for 22-23 is there was actually a credit in 21-22 of just over 16,500. That was money that came back from the Highland Council. So what's in there is there's splash pad monies of about 10,000. There's the Sandown management fee. There's the Adam and Co and Aeon fees. So, but that's basically the reason why there's such a big variance there, is that there was this credit of monies that came in 21-22. So is that okay on that one, or? Yep. Okay. On the we've already done the special grants. On the admin charges, yeah, that is, as I said, there was additional charges for Sarah and the myself and other people as well, the Jackie McLaughlin as well, for the central support charges going through there. So that's basically what the admin charges are for other officers of Highland Council. There's charges for those guys. It was quite a bit higher, or not quite a bit, but it was higher in 22-23 because the calculation was looked at there, and there was, due to the percentages of my time, Jackie's time, and I think there was perhaps some legal time in there as well. I'd need to go way back to the calculation to get the proper breakdown of that, but there was additional charges put in there.
You're muted, Michael.
Apologies. Before I come to Councillor Oldham and Councillor and Lewis, could we get a breakdown of those charges? And specifically, I was interested in the Sandown management fee. Is that still the Scottish Agricultural College that are doing that?
It's £1,400. I think all the ledger says is Sandown fee. But yeah, okay. I can. I think but it's 1,400 a year.
Okay. Okay, and that would be the Scottish Agricultural College. If we could get a breakdown on these things, and if there's any further detail required, that would be appreciated on the two costs that Paul raised. So I'll open this up. Councillor Oldham first, and then as Lewis's hand is down. So.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. I just wanted to comment for the record on what's going on here. There are two things I think which we're seeing. One is that Highland Council is quite correctly now actually starting to record charges which they are spending on the common good, and I believe in the past people have been a bit more laid back about that, but in these straitened times people have been more careful. But the other thing that I think I should just point out for the record is that when people like Sarah Murdoch have been involved in extra work, sometimes that is down to questions which have been asked by the community. And I sometimes think they've been asked in a way which isn't helpful and is vexatious and is just making more work. And that is costing the common good. I think the public should bear in mind when they're asking questions that they are, in some cases, disadvantaging the common good by doing so. Thank you, Michael.
No, and I would just echo concerns I have with that as well, Paul. I totally agree with you. Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I was going to offer that breakdown that you asked for. That was why I took my hand down. But yeah, we'll get that breakdown of costs to you. And just to confirm that it is SAC that looks after that for us, the Scottish Agricultural College. And it's a point well made that Councillor Oldham said there, that these community questions, they do cost money to respond to in terms of the Common Good Fund officers' time. And yeah, that is what some of that relates to. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Before I come to Laura, I think there's a balance to be struck. Yes, we don't want to sort of close down discussion, debate on legitimate concerns, but it does seem to have gone too far one way. I agree with that totally. Okay, we'll go to Lara. Lara?
It was just a quick comment as well. I know you'd asked a question about the revaluation losses on the investments, and you'd asked Councillor Oldham to come back, but I've got the breakdown in front of me for that as well. I think that £40,000 broken down by quarter, the big quarter of that was actually a loss of 53,000 in the April to June quarter, and I think that a lot of that was to do with things like Ukraine and just what happened at that point. So then the second quarter there was another 17,000 loss, but then in the last two quarters of that year there were gains of 17 and then 13,000. In this current year to date there's been a further gain of 31 again, so it is recovering slightly. So that's just a little comment on that for you.
Yes, no, that's appreciated. Thank you. I'm sure it was. You take the longer term view in all these sort of investments, but it just seemed to be a large figure, not quite as large as the 53 with the Ukraine, but there we go. But I take it in the round. Thank you for that. Okay, so if there's no further clarification required there, thank you to the officers for that, and we'll go to the recommendation as I flip screens here. And that's consider and agree the Nairn Common Good Fund Statement of Accounts for 22-23 at Appendix 1A and the final monitoring statement at Appendix 1B. So are we agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, we'll now move on to the last part of the meeting. And that is the revised Nairn Common Good Fund Let's charging framework at Appendix 4A, and I'll open that up to Ali.
Yeah, good morning. So this new charging regime sort of kind of replaces the existing one, which is a kind of blanket charge throughout the whole year. The idea here is to kind of remove that kind of element of discretion and vagaries which are inherent in some of the charge decisions that have been made in the past, to try and make things a bit more transparent. We're obviously trying to recognise through identifying different periods of the year what the kind of footfall is on those periods, and to try and encourage more trade within those off-peak times, to try and sort of kind of distribute the business throughout the year. We're also hoping to try and, by identifying what is kind of free or cheaper, to attract people to make use of the links, and then obviously benefit the business and the community in that way as well. And then from your own steer, to try and promote the health and well-being benefits of the area by just trying to encourage people who are involved in those kind of activities to be involved in those both off-peak and on-peak by providing, a conducive rate. The charging framework has come about as a result of benchmarking against Moray Council. Also, we've looked at Inverness area in relation to some of the larger events. There's a provision in there to try and encourage people to look at large-scale, maybe licensed ticketed events by applying the similar framework as they used in Inverness for Buff Park. We've also considered losses that are incurred as a result of closing a invitation to pay car parks to try and build that into it. And a lot of it is about taking away the lack of clarity around what is a community event and what is not a community event. So if we in the notes there will stipulate that if there is no charge for an event, it is there and assessed to be in the benefit of the community, and there's no charge for entry, then we would call it a community event. That does not mean that there will not be charges incurred for commercial traders that are associated with that event. And so therefore, you know, for example, going forward, if somebody wants to hold a large scale event which is for the benefit of the community, it's free for the public to go and it will attract large numbers of the public there. We're not looking to charge that organizer because they have enough demands on their budget to do so, but the common good will attract and identify traders in and around that event based on the higher footfall and take the money into the common good from that direction rather than handing that over to an event organizer. Just to say, okay, my assessment of it is that we have probably not benefited from providing, you know, a single option for people to run an event and then to deal with traders themselves. So that's kind of the sum of it, if you like, but I'm happy to take questions on it.
Okay, thank you. I think one of the most important things here is the clarity that this brings, because we played this sort of hokey-cokey back and forth. Is it charitable? Is it this? Is it that? Do we charge? And it's going to streamline the whole service. And I would also quite rightly, as you said, I draw attention to highlight the range of things you can do. You know, community groups can use the bandstands. You can have a wedding free. And the last point I'd make is I think we should really publicise this better, not just in our own premises here, but use the community notice boards. You know, we've got one at Constitution Square, is it? Just opposite here. Is it, you know, we should use that. There's the notice boards there, which I think comes under the control of River. So we should just get these charges laminated and hand them out even to as far as the notice boards in Nairn and other community notice boards that we've got. So we need to get this publicised because it's an excellent report. There's a lot of work and we just need to get it better known. So I'll open that up. Paul.
Yeah. Clarity is the important thing here. I'd just like to apologise rightly in advance because I only looked at these papers for the first time yesterday. So some of the points I'm bringing up here, although they're going to appear trivial, I think they are important, but I would have brought them to you first if I'd had time. Firstly, before I start anything else, there is what I think is just a typo. On page 14, you've got a heading below the table. So where it says closure of invitations to pay car parks, I think that's meant to be above that table, not below. Just confused me from here as to what the table was for until I saw the heading. So it's flipping up. But I did have some questions, and this is all down to clarity. I think clarity is important here, and it's just defining things. So, for example, in circuses, it says a small circus is up to 25 meters squared. My first question was, sorry, what's up to 25 meters squared? Is that the footprint of the tent, or what? I think it would be useful if it said.
Okay, so that would, yeah, that apologies. No, yep, I'll let you have other questions first.
Okay, I haven't dealt this. I'm sorry. These are things I would have brought to you beforehand, but I'm sorry. On weddings, we refer to Nairn residents. I had two questions on that. One was, are we saying that both the people that are getting married has to be residents in Nairn, or just one of them? And secondly, how exactly are we defining the word residents? Because what I'm trying to avoid here is a situation where you have to come back to us and ask, do we count those people as Nairn residents? I think we need a firm definition of what a Nairn resident is. Honestly, I don't know what that should be, but I think we need to be clear about that. I mean, the question I kind of have for members is, I know this is common good, but do we actually want to open that to anybody who lives in the ward, not just anybody who lives in Nairn? So I'll just leave you to think about that while I do the rest of them. On performers, I was intrigued on musicians where you refer to commercial and non-commercial. I was wondering what the definition of a commercial musician is, given that we're talking about non-ticketed events here. And again, I wasn't clear, so I was thinking, well, this is meant to be clarifying this, so I wonder whether you could answer that one. Fairground rides, large and small. Again, my question is going to be, what's the definition of a small and what's the definition of large? And finally, the one that really worried me was in the small print, it says, this is just below that section, it says, charity vendors are charged at half rate all three in some circumstances. And I was there thinking, uh-oh, we're back to us having to be asked again here. What can we not define what we mean by in some circumstances? Now, that's a lot. I'm sorry, it's rather a lot, but apologies, I came to this late.
No, I appreciate your comments, Councillor. I think it's very helpful actually to get that kind of clarity. Sometimes when you look at these things for the first time or for the 10th time, you're not seeing some of the things that other people externally look at. In relation to the 25 metres square, yes, this is picked straight almost directly from Murray Council, and it would be the footprint of the tent that's involved. Going beyond 25 metres square, we would call that a large circus. In relation to the weddings for Nairn residents, so my assumption here would be that it would be used on council tax for the Nairn borough residents, if you like, and one person would be involved. So if one person was a resident, then so that's maybe something that needs further clarity about what that footprint looks like. But I'm not sure, Paul, sorry, Councillor, whether you had a particular view on that. Happy to include it.
I'm not sure what we mean, but I'm not sure how is the definition of borough defined in the electoral roll. This is the old town of Nairn we're talking about.
So yeah, so I'm not clear about that. So something I'll take back and have a look about what this particularly looks like. In relation to the charity,
musicians.
Sorry, musicians. Yeah, so a commercial musician is obviously taking a fee for their performance in some way or form. But a busker would go up there. I think we would be quite happy with a busker to go and use it for a limited period if they make the application.
So we're saying we're going to charge a busker £100.
Sorry, so we wouldn't charge a busker because they're not commercial.
Right, so can you define what you mean by commercial then? Because we're saying this is non-ticketed events, so how are they making the money if they're not charging for tickets and they're not? So, we're saying that they can busk.
So if somebody was a professional performer, if for example we wanted to have an event down there and we wanted to engage, so if somebody's running a festival or something like that and they want to engage somebody to perform within there, then they would pay their fees and therefore that becomes a commercial event. So I was thinking about in terms of if we run a summer event there and a band was being paid to play there, then we would charge them for that, because they are going to be making payment. The event organizer is going to be making some sort of funding out of it, so therefore we would charge for that. So it's a professional band. A professional band that wants to perform there would be charged.
Yeah,
is that clear or not?
No, I still think you're going to run into trouble here, but okay. I'll just here we go on that.
Okay, are you?
Sorry, we've got fairground rides, and we've also got the all free in some circumstances, which is the one that's really worrying me, to be honest. The last one.
Okay, so I mean, I completely take that on board. The idea there was that charity rate would be and free in some circumstances would simply be on the basis that for some of the times of the year we're not charging anyway. So therefore, for example, if we are off peak and you're a small market trader and you're only wanting 2 hours, we're not actually suggesting that we charge for that. If somebody has got a street trader's license, then so if you were a charity, we certainly wouldn't be charging somebody additional for that. So you can't do half of nothing, if you like.
Can I just the word be changed to at half rate, because the rate will be 0, so half of 0 is zero.
That's fair.
Avoid ambiguity.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
Thank you. That's me done. Thank you, Michael.
Okay. We'll now come. Sorry, we'll see Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to come in on some of those points as well. I think there's an important point there around the weddings that was being discussed there. You know, how do you want to define near residents? I think my recommendation would be that we have the ward area rather than try and drill down to a previous electoral ward. I think we should use our current electoral ward, which is Ward 18, Nairnshire. Would be my suggestion. It's so much easier to define, and I think it allows greater flexibility. I think there's people that probably live out with that old borough that consider themselves to be from Nairn. I think it would be a better way to go. The other points that I wanted to come in on as well, just to reinforce some of Ali's points there, was Yeah, we'll tighten up some of the wording. It's a good point well made there, Councillor Oldham, about the ability that we've left in there, which was non-intentional. So we'll tighten up some of the phraseology when we revisit this, before we finalise it and start to use it. The other point was that in terms of fairground rides, small, 25 metres square, it's just a 5 metre by 5 metre footprint. So what we had in mind there was basically those kind of small teacup rides, and anything basically large, in terms of large circus or large fairground, anything bigger than that basically is how we would go with the definition of large. That makes sense. So those were the other points I wanted to jump in on. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Barbara, then I'll come to Paul.
Okay. Good that we're going forward with clear charges. When you look at how much the grass cutting cost, I think that needs flagged up, because we're using a lot of money on that, and it needs covered. Right, the bit is the free use, well-being and fitness, which I'm all for, and we're going to have to rely on the help and the support of these people going forward with policies that are coming out. Right, cannot involve rental or sale of products. Now, things like we've got things running down the beach and on the grass, sometimes regular, sometimes just for a month at a time. But it is well-being, like the yoga and the stuff. And maybe people on holiday would need to rent something, you know, like a yoga mat or something. I think it would be reasonable to allow that kind of rental. Cannot involve rental or sale of products. You know, you're limited with how much you can pack in your car, and people that are arriving by train or bus and just staying in one of the caravans, if you've got a squad of kids, you're not going to bring 4 yoga mats. So to be able to hire it out, you know, or like the pole walkers, we have maybe they lend out poles or rent out poles. It would be nice not to shut the door on that for just a couple of words in there. I think we need to be a bit mindful about that we do allow rental of things, plus to keep the organisation going.
If I can,
just a thought.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Barbara. Ali, do you want to give clarification?
Yeah, so perhaps it's not adequately worded. So if somebody was looking to do a rental, so if you can imagine somebody would take a trailer load of paddle boards down there, or a trailer load of some other equipment down there, and then just start doing a rental without actually engaging directly with the clients on the water, then it becomes a street trader, if you like. So we would then move them into as a market trader. So maybe I need to be clearer there, saying, you know, where there is rental involved, then it's the street traders kind of the trader vendors charges would apply, because it's a slightly different prospect for somebody just to be renting out stuff to give to people that are going away independently and then using them than for example, certainly the yoga or things like that, paddleboarding, where they are dealing with people under instruction. Yes, you're absolutely right. They're lending them the equipment while they're doing the activity. That's the people that we're talking about here for well-being. However, if they're going to stand off, rent it out and then leave it out, that's a street trader. That's a vendor.
Okay, so a clear line.
So I maybe just need to be, again, a lot of this, it's helpful, you guys going through this, because it does provide a lot more clarity to see what people are reading that there. So yeah, that's helpful.
Okay, yes, because if they're making money off it, you know, it's okay. And things like the, oh, sorry.
Okay, no, sorry, if you have a point to make, Bob, specific.
Yes, the point of I'd like to know how many times life belts have been vandalised and what's the cost of that, because that also needs highlighted to these people raising, because this is what the costs are covered for.
I don't want to close you down, but that's a separate issue altogether, vandalism. You know, we're just looking at the specific charges.
It's a reason for charges that needs passed on, as this is a reason, because we're paying that money out.
Yes, I take your point, and it's well made, but at the end of the day, we're just looking at one side of this discussion at the moment, which is the letting charges. Now, there's quite a few modifications, and thanks, Councillor Oldham, for that, to bring that clarity to it. The thing is, we've got the summer season looming. We want to get this out and about. I think the various points raised have been well made, and I think you guys will reflect the points that have been raised in the actual final work. So on that basis, I'm happy to agree what we have in front of us, with the proviso that the changes are made. So unless there's any other comments on that, are we happy to agree the proposed? No, Barbara, you want to speak?
Sorry, it's regard. Well, I agree with what Lewis said about charges and charities. Anyone from the ward would be counted as a person from Nairn. But I think we need to bear in mind, this is maybe more for the engagement group, is somebody quoted a point, I think it was in the last minutes or the ones before in Nairn River, about the burghers having sole use of the original banner. You know, I think that needs clarity around it. Just a point to consider for the engagement group when we're talking about who counts, who doesn't count for rights to use of common good. It was a point that was made, and I think it's going to come up again. So if we could be enlightened on that at some point, that would be great.
You're muted again, Michael.
Sorry, I just got here. Yeah, thank you for that, Barbara. We'll go to Lewis first, then we'll go to Paul. Sorry, Lewis, you had your hand up. Are you? No?
Oh, yeah, sorry, I was talking and I was
I know
on
you're an old hand, but you know.
Sorry, Chair. Yeah, there's a few points in there that I'd like to pick up on. In terms of that Burghers of Nairn, I think there will be discussion at the engagement group around that, and I think we're hoping to get the Land Commission along to have an input into that discussion. I think when it comes to this committee taking decisions in terms of the Common Good Fund, I think we have to take cognizance of our current electoral boundary, and that is Ward 18. I think it's the safest way to take decisions, is in particular when we go back to that original point where this came up in terms of weddings being free for residents of Nairn. But yeah, you're right, Councillor Jarvie, there needs to be a little bit of discussion with the community on that Burghers of Nairn issue, and we'll do that at the engagement group when we've got the Land Commission there as well, because they are the ones that pull together the statutory guidance in terms of common good funds. Just going back to your other point, Councillor Jarvie, I'm happy to provide, I don't have them to hand, but I'm happy to provide you with costs in relation to lifebelt vandalisms for your interest and awareness. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Paul.
Yeah, just following on from the Burghers of Nairn thing. Speaking as somebody who lives in Nairn, but I believe out with the burgh or other the borough, I think we're in a really dangerous ground here. A lot of Nairn, basically pretty much all of Nairn to the east of the river didn't exist at the time that the Royal Borough was created. So I suspect that we actually count. So people in Bamberkeith Park, for example, aren't covered. So I think this is all a very hazy area, and I think we are in danger of getting ourselves into all sorts of trouble if we start to try and stick to the old legal definition.
Okay, Lewis.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I've got no intention of using that old legal definition or old legal boundary in anything that we use in terms of our decision making or anything that we present to this committee. And I think when we hopefully have the Land Commission in attendance at one of the engagement group meetings, it'll be good to get them to comment on that, because I'm sure they'll be of the same view that what we need to use is our current electoral commission defined boundary, which is Ward 18. So yeah, that's my view, and that's how we'll be progressing on that point.
Okay. We're quite happy with that. There's no other hands raised. Then we can agree. We can agree the revised Nairn Common Good Fund let charging framework with the feedback that you've received. So are we agreed on that?
Agreed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, guys. Okay, that brings us to the end of the meeting, but I can't let this go without commenting on the sad news that we're losing Lewis. Nairn's loss is the Black Isles gain, I'm led to believe. Well, I don't mean it's the gain, it's not there, but it's their benefit. So I'd just like to thank Lewis for his hard work and for his engagement with the community. He's built up some really good relationships, and it's unfortunate that we're losing an element of that. He's also taken forward many projects, some small, some very, very big. And I'd just like to say again, thank you for that. And Lewis has been probably, in all honesty, the best officer I've worked with. So Lewis, you'll be sadly missed. We're very thankful for what you've done. And I would just ask you, I know you'll have some ongoing responsibility for areas. If you just want to flesh that out to let folk know, whilst you're away, there's still certain projects, so you'll have a continued involvement and responsibility, certainly around common goods. So if I can hand over to you, Lewis, and then I'll hand over to Paul.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, and thank you very much for those kind words. It's I have to say it's been incredibly enjoyable being part of the Nairnshire team. But yeah, in terms of the pieces of work that I'll be hanging on to, the waste feasibility study work, I will be staying involved in that until that piece of work is handed over to the operational waste team. So that point of handover will be at a point where we take a report to the strategic committee, sorry. But we'll also be keeping local members up to date on that as well. The other work that I'm going to remain involved in is working with the Nairn Access panel to finalise and finish off the access platform project down the beach. I think in terms of continuity, I've asked to hang on to that until it's concluded, and colleagues have agreed. And the other way that I'll be staying involved in terms of common good is I'll have a thematic Highland-wide remit around common good funds. I won't be running all the common good funds, far from it, but I've got a thematic responsibility Highland-wide to support officers in common good fund activity. That's still being defined, what that role will look like, but it will allow me to retain a slight roving brief in there, and particularly around the work of the engagement group. So I hope to be a bit like the proverbial bad penny and keep turning up in Nairnshire.
Thank you for that, Lewis. And before I go to Councillor Oldham, I would just like you, if you could, spread the word in Glenurquhart Road of how enjoyable it is to work in Nairn. I think that message needs to be got across, because there may be a sort of prevailing sense that it's maybe not the most user-friendly place for officers to come. So you are a living embodiment that it is, and it's very productive and enjoyable. So spread the word. Thank you, Lewis. Councillor Oldham.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Yeah, I just wanted to echo what Michael was saying. I have been approached now by several Dingwall area councillors saying, what's this Lewis Hanna like? I said, well, the best way I can sum this up is we are really sad that we're losing him, and you've gained a great asset. So yeah, good luck in your new role. I'm sure Dingwall will enjoy you. It's just a shame we have to lose you. Well, on a more negative note, I noticed that none of our new community development managers are at this meeting, which I find sad. It does worry me about the continuity we're going to get moving on. But anyway, thank you, Michael, and thank you, Lewis.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, there's no other hands up. We'll stay on for our chat.
I was just going to echo the same comments there. I'm sorry to see Lewis. He's done a power of work the last couple of years now. Really, we will miss him. Really sorry to see him go. Thanks for that.
Thanks,
sorry. Right. Okay. We'll stay on, but that concludes our business today. So I want to thank officers for their input. It's been good, and the common good's in good shape. And sorry, Paul, your hands up. Have you?
Oh, no, so that's a big pardon.
Hold on. No, not at all. So thank the officers, and look forward to our next committee meeting. And we'll say goodbye to those that are not staying on the call. Thank you.